All right, let's get started. This is the Kubernetes CSI implementation meeting. Today is Wednesday, November 28, 2018. Let's go ahead and go through the agenda. First, let's get a review of the outstanding tasks for Kubernetes 1.13. First up, we have secret logging. Both Patrick and Sergey have been working on this. And I believe Michelle has been reviewing both possibilities and is deciding which one to use. And she's going to have Jordan review it today to get his input on which one he would prefer, if either. Anything else that you guys want to add to this? All right, moving on. Kubelet removing node ID annotation after driver restart. This was resolved. Thank you to Vlad for this. So this was a pretty nasty race condition, and huge thanks to Vlad for working late and figuring this out and entertaining all the comments.
No problem.
Cool. So next up is the Flaky subpath test issue, which has been flaking for a while. Yesterday we increased the timeout because we thought it was because of the driver registrar issue, where the driver registrar can take a minute to start up. That reduced the flakes somewhat, but the flakes are still there. So Michelle and I took a look at it this morning, and it turns out that the test is actually just broken. The driver is able to start and mount the volume correctly, and then Kubelet will fail it because of the subpath test. But then the test fails to pick up the event that Kubelet generates. So it's firmly looking like a test issue. Next up, Kubernetes IO documentation has been merged, so we're looking good there. Next up is splitting up the driver registrar into two programs. We ideally want to get this done by end of week so that we're ready for the release next week. Luis, any updates on this?
Yes, I actually, when I placed the ticket, I wanted it to be based off driver registrar. It looks like they created two new repos.
Yes.
And so what I had to jump through. I'm not a Git expert, so I didn't know how to do it, but I finally figured it out, how to destroy the history on that repo and then merge the one from driver reg. So I have that all set. I'm about to do a push into node reg and to cluster reg,
okay.
Which will make it look just like master driver registrar. And then from there, so anyway, we'll have all the history, and from there we can start adjusting each one.
Okay, and I think one more thing would be to copy the issues over and separate them, and then close the old ones and point to the new ones, and then mark the old one as completely deprecated. Just put a notice on the read.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. We'll probably can do that next week, but in this week I'll try to just get the programs going.
Okay, sounds good. All right, Luis, thank you for that update. That looks like it's going well. Next up is sync host path driver YAMLs with end-to-end YAMLs. Make sure to update device registration directory. Source of truth should be in the host path driver repo for all the YAMLs. Let's also archive the 1.12 examples. Is this a requirement for release? Sorry, I missed the last couple meetings because I was in the release meeting. Does anybody have the context on this?
Which one is that? I'm sorry.
This is sync host path driver YAMLs with end-to-end YAMLs.
So this is my task to be I'm working on. It's basically right now the YAMLs that are used for host path examples and host path E2E tests are
copies.
Yeah, basically they're in the E2E test path. and the document basically is pointing back to the E2E. So Michelle had suggested to let's put the YAMLs right alongside the host path repo, so where it should live, and then point the documentation to that location. And then Patrick, basically for the E2E, it'll stay there for now until we can figure out during the E2E test how to point to the location of truth for those YAMLs.
Okay, that seems reasonable. And whenever you have an update for that, let us know.
Okay, yes, I will.
Next up is Patrick. Use Quay 1.0 images of CSI containers for Kubernetes end-to-end testing. Currently, we're using GKE. We decided to hold off on this until we fix the Travis CI imaging, which currently is broken.
No, it's not broken. We push canaries only now.
Sorry.
And by hand, we had to push the releases.
Yes. So until we can automate that.
No, but it's okay. I mean, that by hand. Fixed? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that means that if I tag a new release, does it automatically tag a new container with that release number?
No, you're going to have to build it and push it. Okay. But what I'm saying is that no automatic thing will create a release right now. So there's nothing to be scared of. But when we tag it, which you have to do by hand anyway, you might as well just build it and push it. So it's just a simple command. Just make push and it does it. So.
Okay. On the GKE side, we have it so that as soon as there's a tag cut, it automatically creates the appropriate container. And then there's a manual step required to basically promote it from staging to production. It would be cool to get something like that going here as well.
If those utilities are public and it can point to anything, then yeah. But I'm sure those are like Google only things.
Yeah, probably. Okay, yeah. No worries.
Like right now, by hand is pretty simple. So we still have to do things by hand.
So by hand, only a handful of people have permission, right, on Quay?
Oh, I think like 4 or 5 people have it. I can tell you which.
Okay.
So, but the next line, just want to let you know that the next one, I have confirmed it. I looked at everybody. Every one of the repos has the 1.0.
Nice. Okay.
But I can tell you that in K8SSI, we have 6 members, and we got Shakri. Wow, that's old school. David, Jan, Sergey, Vlad, and Jing. You're not on there.
Okay, I think I shared my ID with you.
I need to add you again.
Also, do we really want 2 different places to store this? I guess it's good for redundancy, but would anybody mind if we switch just over to GKE, the GCR IO?
I just think that not many people have control. The community doesn't have control of that. The community has control of this, right? Everyone that wants access can have access to this. But that is out of our hands.
That's fair. I guess the last step, which is promoting a container from staging to production, needs to be done by someone at Google. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Next up is updating Kubernetes CSI docs. I really haven't gotten around to this. I've merged some PRs. Beyond that, I haven't taken a look at this. I've just been heads down with the release fires that keep coming up. So hopefully later this week or at
probably next week. I won't have time anytime this week for this.
Okay. Next up is fixing and cutting the external snapshotter. Looks like RC3 has been cut. Xing, what are the next steps here and what's left over?
So I think we got all the major ones merged. There are a couple small ones. I probably shouldn't wait anymore because we also made a breaking change in the API, okay. Which means we need to update the provisioner.
Got it. Okay, so we should definitely get that in as soon as possible.
Okay, so I just want to double check with Jean and see if she is trying to get anything in. Otherwise, we can cut this soon. So should that be? So that should be just 1.0 now, right?
If you're confident in it, go for 1.0. If you want to do some testing, call it RC4 and then create a 1.0 after that from the RC4.
Okay. So yeah, it's probably safer. I'll just do RC4 first,
Okay.
and then we can update the external provisioner to point to RC4.
Okay.
And then make some code changes necessary for that.
And you're also making sure to cherry pick to the release 1 branch and everything.
Yeah, I would do that. Yeah, right now we have quite a few changes since the release 1.0 branch cut, so we need to merge those.
Okay. And just make sure that every time you cut a new RC, don't cut it off of master, cut it off the release branch.
Oh, okay.
That way it just remains consistent with whatever is going on the release branch. Anytime you make a cut, always off a release branch.
Okay, sure.
I think this actually is a good opportunity to talk about releasing. And I know this is a kind of a tangent discussion, but we can talk about it after. But with so many repos, it would be great to have like not only a standard model doing it, but multiple people doing it. I think it would be great to have like repo owners that are in charge of doing the releases for those repos.
Yeah.
Because it'll make it simpler when we do releases.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So I think in this case, Xing and Jing own this repo and they can go ahead and cut the releases. In general, the practice is whenever there's a new release, we cut a release branch off of master. And any release that we do, make sure it comes off of the release branch. This will force you to think about what it is that you're cutting, and if it's on master, you need to cherry pick it back first and then cut your release.
Yes, and I think we can add it in the docs for our own release steps, so we're on the same page. So.
Okay, that's a good idea. All right, so that looks like it is in progress. I think one more thing, Xing, when you do cut the releases, you should add release notes that mention that this is backwards compatibility breaking.
Okay.
So between 0.41 and 1.00, and the 1.00 just capture all the things that are changing and broken, and that if I'm implementing this on the driver side, what do I need to be aware of?
Okay.
Capture that in the notes. That way, people aren't surprised.
Sure.
And as far as I understand, the old API is still supported on 0.41, so people who are using it can continue to use it. It shouldn't break. Only when they upgrade to 1.0.0, they're going to have to pick up the new Kubernetes and CSI API.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Thank you for all the work there.
Thank you.
Next up is block support in the external provisioner. I think I reviewed in LGTM this, and it's been merged since. We're going to have to do a new release of the external provisioner. I think, Xing, you're going to do that anyway, and so this will get picked up as part of that. It should be cherry picked, so that's the other thing we need to do here is go through and look at the PRs that have been merged and make sure they're actually cherry picked to the 1.0 branch.
Okay, so it's not, we don't want to take everything, we just want to pick a couple of them.
Right.
Okay.
We want to be very explicit about what we cherry pick, and so this one should be I think it makes sense to cherry pick it to and then I think we should also review what the other PRs are that went in before we cut the new release to make sure any of the important ones are picked up. Probably never log a secret is a good one. We're going to need...
It's not merged, right? This one's not merged yet.
Yeah. So maybe on Friday we can discuss which ones to cherry pick and cut an official release off of.
Okay.
In general, please, anybody who's making a change to any of these sidecar containers now, if your change gets merged, please know that you're responsible for cherry picking it back to the release branch if you want it in the release branch. Someone else shouldn't have to come in and figure out whether it needs to be on the release branch or not.
And I just cherry pick it, and that's it. The containers are tagged automatically.
Sorry, what was that, Jan?
I have a PR that needs to be cherry picked, so I just cherry pick it to the right branch.
Yep.
And containers get built and tagged correctly.
I believe today they will get built and tagged as release-10 canary.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we want to cut an official build like RC4 or RC5 or 1.01, whenever we create that tag, there's a manual process on the Quay side for creating the official container.
Okay. Thanks.
Next up is updating the Liveness probe. I think tag and branch has been created, but no containers. Has this been fixed since? Luis, do you happen to know?
Sorry, could you ask me again?
Apparently Liveness probe was updated, but no new container was created for it.
Oh, I see a 1.0 container for Liveness probe.
Okay.
So
hopefully.
and I also see the 1.0 dash canary. So
okay. So that seems to be
okay.
Good. CSI sanity testing versioning, fix CSI spec in 0.3 and cut a 0.3.
That is done.
Done. Nice.
And released.
Nice.
Now, Patrick did bring up a question. He's not very fond of the dash at 4 at the end. The dashes. CSI sanity is really tied to the spec. The CSI spec, so maybe something we got to revisit later, where we had to somehow say that this is the CSI test for version 1.0 of the CSI spec, and this is the third version of the sanity. You see what I'm saying? So that's how we do it now.
I think incrementing the minor version is fine, like calling it 0.30, 0.31, 0.32, like that's fine.
Would that would not be confusing if CSI spec does the same thing?
Well, that's okay. I think the likelihood of CSI cutting a 0.0.1 is pretty low, and if they do, we'll just it just becomes, for us, we'll do like a 0.0.6 and say, oh yeah, it picks up CSI, whatever. Okay.
That's fine. We can also make it, yeah, that's fine with me. The biggest problem was that DEP had an issue with the dash.
Yeah.
So
okay. I support going down, just dropping the dash and just using that the most minor version.
Then let me cut a new release with that change in it.
Okay.
So that way people can get it. Simple enough.
We'll cut a 0.3.1, I guess.
0.4. 0.5. Yeah, just to make it. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, and then someone should test it out before declaring official release. Has this been done yet? Looks like
I think somebody said in the channel that somebody had done it and used it and it had worked. So seems okay to me. So
okay,
I think we'll do the try catch method.
If anybody has issues, they'll speak up. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you for that. Next up, release notes. So I've been keeping an eye on this. I think we're looking good there. Last issue that I had was preparing the release notes, and Jordan had a question about compatibility. So today, 0.x drivers use the old plugin registry directory. 1.x drivers must use new plugin directory. And say today. And 0.x plus 1.x drivers must use new directory. So this is a driver that supports both 0x and 1x. I don't imagine there's going to be very many of these because our sidecar containers don't do this. So somebody who does this will actually have to build their own sidecar containers to do this. Jordan wants this to be may use either directory. So we're gonna, I think Michelle's talking to the release team right now. If they want to allow another PR to go in, we'll make this change. Otherwise, we'll document it as like, you're gonna have to use the new directory. And if you want a seamless upgrade for this type of driver, you're gonna have to drop it in both the old and new directory. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, this is something actually while creating the Portworx driver to 1.0 came across the same issue because we didn't want to release the CSI 1.0 and not be able to use the driver anymore for older versions of Kubernetes.
What did you guys end up doing?
So what we kind of end up thinking is that a couple of things. We're probably going to separate the CSI driver control from the core so that we can change it depending on the Kubernetes version. Mm-hmm. And then the YAMLs on, so if you're going to install on a 1.12 or less, when you go to install, it'll say what version of Kubernetes you're using, mm-hmm. and then it will give you the YAMLs with the correct sidecar containers for that version. Mm-hmm. If you go above that, we'll give you the YAMLs and so on for that version. Now, when you do an upgrade, that's where we're still kind of not knowing what to do yet.
So I think for the upgrade, what you're going to do is you're going to deploy the 0.3 driver node and 1.0 driver node, and you deploy the 1.0 controller. So provisioning and attaching is handled by the 1.0, even on the old cluster. And then on the old cluster, on the old nodes, the 0.x driver in the old directory will pick up and handle mounts. And as soon as you do an upgrade, the 1.x driver gets registered with kubelet and handles mounts as well. And then when your upgrade is complete, you can go ahead and delete the 0.3 from the node. So basically you have two daemon sets. One daemon set that's deploying 0.3, one daemon set that's deploying 1.0. 0.3 gets deployed in the old plugin directory, 1.0 gets deployed in the new plugin directory, and then you do this prior to doing your upgrade between 1.12 to 1.13, and then after 1.13 has been completely updated, you can go ahead and remove the 0.3 daemon set. So that's a little bit of a manual process. I think.
Yeah. I'm gonna take that what you just said, like as a recording, and just put it into paper.
Yeah, we should. The documentation that we need to do, I think we need to capture all of this in there. Yeah. But I think what Jordan wants here is like, if someone goes through the effort of creating a driver that supports both versions, they shouldn't have to change the directory. They should just be able to continue to use the old directory. Problem is we're going to deprecate that old directory or delete that directory in 1.15. So if they never—
That's fine. Yeah, I think if, like, for example, if we're doing an upgrade and we go from 1.12 to 1.13, mm-hmm. the 1.13 model should go to 1.0, but it should keep around the 0.3 version in the second mm-hmm. directory, just to as the other nodes are coming up.
Yeah, that's what I recommend.
Yeah, and as long as I didn't know this, that they were on different plugin directories, but as long as that's true, then it'll make it much easier.
Yeah. The
and
controller is easy because controller you can always just upgrade to 1.0 beforehand,
okay,
and everything will work. So even on your old 112 cluster, you just upgrade the controller, but not the nodes, and it works. And then the nodes are the problematic one because kubelet actually speaks CSI on the kubelet when it's talking to CSI directly. There's no sidecar containers. So there you basically can have both the 03 and the 10 sockets coexist.
yeah, you can't upgrade the controller either. On controller 1.0 can't talk to 0.3 driver because it changed all the volume attributes to volume context. And
That's only on the CSI side. It's not on the Kubernetes side.
correct. That's right.
So as long as you update your controller to 1.0, you're also updating your sidecar containers. Your sidecar container and driver are compatible. They both speak 1.0.
Yeah, when you say controller, I'm thinking sidecar controller.
Okay.
Controller
Controller,
service.
the combination of sidecar and CSI driver
Got it.
need to both be at 1.0 for anything serving controller, and then for your node.
Yeah. So this dance needs to be documented.
Yeah, agreed. So we'll see if release team wants us to make this change. If they do, we'll go ahead and make it today. If not, we'll tell Jordan to.
Oh, Saad, I just got back from the release meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're fine with it.
They're fine with it. Okay. All right. So I'll put out a PR for that then.
Awesome. Thank you.
And then we'll also make sure to document it somewhere, probably Kubernetes CSI.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Blog post for CSI GA I've not started on. Actually, Jorge is not helping with this because he's creating just the generic 1.13 blog post. So this will be on me. Rest of these items look like they're done. So I think we're looking good here. We can go up to miscellaneous topics. Patrick had shared repo for common code, connecting to CSI consistently with short retry intervals. I think this is the this is the issue where driver registrar can take a minute to get started. And yeah, there's a suggestion about using different CSI options to try and fix this, gRPC options. Is anyone interested in working on fixing this?
Saad, if I'll try to take a look at that.
Okay. Yeah, feel free to take a look at it, and then if it sounds like this is something you want to pick up, let us know.
Okay.
Next up is, actually, let's just go ahead and move this to items we're tracking for 113. Actually, I'm going to move this back. So I think Patrick intended this to be a larger discussion about common code. And what I'm looking for is just somebody to fix this issue. This one. So let's go down here and say driver fix driver registrar connection issue. But I think Patrick's point was a larger point, which is there's shared code. Where do we put it? We created a request to create a new repo called CSI lib-util in Kubernetes-CSI. Oh, there it is. And we can start using it for common libraries that will be used by all the sidecar containers. So we could use it potentially for like common connection code as well. So it's not repeated. Looks like it's still pending. Next up is moving the mount code from package util mount to k-utils mount. And apparently Travis is working on this. Do we know why we're doing this?
This is so because right now all the CSI drivers are pulling directly from Kubernetes mount libraries.
All right. Okay.
And the mount package contains a lot more stuff than what CSI drivers need.
Got it.
So this is like just pulling out the bits that would be useful for CSI drivers.
Okay, that makes sense. And there's already a utils directory is it under Kubernetes?
Yeah, I think so. This would be under staging.
Oh, okay. Got it.
A question?
Yes.
It's Shai. Is this mount library, what is the versioning of that? Is it V1 or is it contain also iSCSI aspects?
No, so this is just the Linux mount library that the in-tree drivers currently use for doing things like bind mounts and stuff like that, formatting. So all the in-tree drivers do this. The external CSI drivers today basically copy this code manually and have a copy of their own everywhere. So instead of doing the copy, what we're doing is moving this code into an external repo that both Kubernetes in-tree can use as well as outside code can use. So one of the consumers should be that CSI iSCSI library that we have, but I don't think anybody. So first step will be to create this, and then the next step will be to modify all the consumers to pick this up.
Mm-hmm. So right now for CSI driver, we just pick it from the original location.
Yeah, today it's just copied from the original location, which is pretty bad. All right, cool. So this is something to look forward to. Next up is need PVC name pass to CSI driver. Luis, do you want to talk about this one?
Yes. Again, we don't have to talk about today's not an emergency, but this is very important for Portworx.
Mm-hmm.
We would lose a lot of functionality from compared to our in-tree driver. Our in-tree driver passes in namespace information, PVC location. For example, if the user wants to set their own secrets for their device, we need that information during provisioning. The thing is like we do a lot of these things already in CSI. We pass this information down.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't do it during provisioning. So it's like we pass it during mount, but not during provisioning. We pass secrets during attachment, but not during provisioning. It's like we just need the same information, but during provisioning also. We have it all. We just need to pass it during provisioning. That's all.
Hey, Luis, for the secrets at least, that is passed during the provisioning time.
The problem is that the secrets are passed by the provisioning controller, for the SIG controller, the external provisioner, but not from the PVC namespace. That's the biggest problem. It actually, if you look at the code, where it takes PVC, it actually passes in nil. And what I want to do is I want to pass this in PVC so that we can use the little macros to say that on a provisioning, pass me in the context, pass me the namespace of the PVC. The problem is right now only in provisioning that is not applied. Not the namespace. We need the namespace and the secret inside the namespace, the context of the secret in the namespace where the PVC got created. You see what I'm saying? So we need both.
So the request is to allow for PVC.namespace and all of this information to the,
like instead of pod, it should be called PVC, right? During provisioning. And then the secrets, which we also need.
Hang on. So there's two different things here. So one is the actual secret.
The contents.
Getting the secret, you say the problem is that you want to be able to set the secret per PVC namespace.
Correct.
And then the second problem is that beyond just secrets, you want to have information about pod, PVC, et cetera, available at provisioning time.
Exactly.
So the first one I think should be okay, but we need to talk to Jordan about security issues. So the request is secret during provisioning.
Secret content, not the secret itself.
Set namespace for secret during provisioning.
Yeah.
Need to discuss security implications with Liget. And then the second request is to be able to pass arbitrary, or be able to pass pod.
PVC, not pod.
Pod info to provisioning call.
No, not pod. You don't have a pod yet. You have the PVC.
Oh, okay. PVC info, namespace, name ID to provisioning call.
Yes.
Like we do for pod for mount.
Yeah, exactly right.
The second one, what do you guys use this information for? Because when I see a request like this, I wonder if there is a generic something.
I would take an action item to provide here concrete use cases.
Okay, perfect. All right, thanks. I think that will help a lot. All right. Next up, CSI node info should not be required. Apparently, this has been fixed. Anything else you guys want to add to this, Xing or anyone else?
I think it is fixed. So Yan did a fix. I tested it. So now, with or without the CSI node info feature gate being enabled, it works. I just need to use 1.13.0 beta.2.
So let's make sure to cherry pick this to 1.0. I wonder if we can use the cherry pick label. So yeah, this looks good. Let's just make sure it gets cherry picked in that release 1.0. Okay.
When it goes to 1.0, and we've been cherry picking a lot, we need to do another release at some time.
Yes. So I'm thinking the early next week is when we're going to be cutting official 1.13 release, and we can cut the sidecar containers early next week for everything. So everything cherry picked by end of this week, merged and cherry picked, then it should be a good place to be able to cut something on Monday.
So next week there will be 1.01s.
Yes. Okay, and then finally, driver registration can sometimes be slow, which we already discussed. Okay. So let's add one more task here. Cut official 1.0x releases of all sidecars for 1.13. All right.
Oh, Saad. There was one potential point of confusion brought up regarding the sidecar versioning scheme.
Yes. This is the
So
-4 thing?
no, so it's the fact that our sidecars seem to be versioned with relation to the CSI spec.
Yes.
So in the case of like snapshot, the snapshot version is 1.0, but the snapshot feature itself is still alpha.
Mm.
So it's a little confusing that the version is 1.0, but the feature is alpha.
Yep. Yep. That's fair. I think it was kind of a soft consensus that we had that we're going to keep the versions the same as CSI because it just makes reasoning about it much easier. So what we can do is, at least for the external snapshotter on the README page, have basically the designation at the top that this feature is still alpha, that 1.0.0 corresponds to CSI version this, but the feature overall, both 0.4 and 1.0 are both still alpha. And in the release notes for each one of the release, you can also mention that. So I think, Shing, you're planning on doing the release notes for the 1.0.0. You can make that clear to say that this 1.0.0 version corresponds to CSI 1.0.0, but the feature is still alpha. So
Okay, I'll do that.
and then moving forward, I think keeping the first two numbers in alignment with CSI and then taking the third number to be just our own would be sufficient. Luis pointed out, well, what if CSI cuts a 1.0.1? In that case, if we're at 1.0.4, we'll just cut 1.0.5, and in our release note, we'll say it's up 1.0.1. That should be okay because CSI probably isn't going to cut a 1.0.1, but when it happens, just incrementing that one version to past whatever we have should be fine. I guess when we cut the official, make sure release notes exist that capture sidecar container status. I think let's split this work across multiple people. We don't have to assign it today, but we can assign it on Friday. Actually, if you guys are all on the line, I don't know who's going to be on the line on Friday. Might as well just assign it now. So at least for external snapshotter, it sounds like so Shing, you're okay doing the external snapshotter?
Yes.
Jan, could you do the external attacher?
Yes.
Awesome. And who wants to do the external provisioner?
I've been doing it. I can continue if you want. I definitely doing Registrar for sure.
Okay.
The driver registrar is still the single.
Ideally,
It's gonna
actually,
be
yeah, I think ideally we should do the right thing here with node and cluster,
okay. All right.
and then no release for driver registrar.
Liveness probe. You mean liveness probe?
And then liveness probe. I think liveness probe might not need anything.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't think anything is going on.
I think that should be it. But
The only concern I have is that the node driver registrar and cluster driver registrar to do a release without doing E2E testing first.
yeah, so I think for all of these, just cut an RC first.
Okay.
And we can test with RCs. So let's say cut an RC release by Friday to test, and then Monday or Tuesday cut official release on but please make sure you have release notes. Please make sure that you do this release branching and cherry picking. Luis, if this is too much because you're doing multiple repos, let me know and we can find someone else for the external provisioner.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. All right, cool. And we can reassess on Friday.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. I think that's pretty much all I have. Anybody else want to talk about anything else? Okay. Keep populating the 1.14 list, and we'll do
Question, please.
planning after the release. What's that?
Question is post issue on the chat. Any updates
sure.
on that?
Let me take a look. Any updates regarding this issue? So I think this turned out to be a much bigger project. What we wanted to do, or what we proposed, was basically on the volume side, on the SIG storage side. And after Node reviewed it, they decided like this should be part of a bigger, I guess, way of handling Node restarts more gracefully. So they want us to leave the volume components as simple as possible, which is if pod gets deleted, that's the signal that we look at. And then some higher level component should be doing the draining and things like that when the node is restarted. And so Jing has a proposal that she put together, and we are gonna share that with SIG Node, and hopefully have SIG Node pick up that work in the next release. And then if they can implement that, as far as we're concerned, we get the fix automatically on the storage side. I think it basically means that right now Kubernetes is not handling restarts very well. And instead of solving the problem as a one-off for storage, we need to do it holistically for everyone. So it looks like it'll leak into the next quarter. It is going to leak into the next quarter.
Actually, I think it's important issue to solve.
Yeah, I agree.
All the detached area is a little bit not stable, so I think it's important one. Can you refer to the pull request in the node?
I think Jing's proposal is in a doc. We can ping her for.
What is the release date for 1.13?
1.13 is next Tuesday, next week.
And all the CSI components are going to be V1 in this version? Or
All
part
the
of them?
CSI components will be CSI v1, which means that they talk CSI v1, but each component will have its own alpha, beta, GA designation. So for example, external snapshotter will speak CSI 1.0, and the version number is going to be 1.0.0, but the designation is still alpha. So snapshots is still alpha. For attacher, driver registrar, and external provisioner, those are fine being marked as GA. But they'll each have individual features that might not be alpha, beta, etc. So for example, block is still alpha. So we need to make sure we capture that in the release notes. Topology is, for external provisioner, topology is, I think it's still alpha, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so we should capture that in the release notes.
Is there one place that you can see all the features and what is the version of each one of them? In the
Not at the moment. We're trying to make sure that when we cut these releases, we have release notes that have this information. And then beyond that, we can also add it to the Kubernetes CSI docs. Both of those are to-dos.
I think it's a good point, though, having a single page
Yeah.
overall view. Then the detailed views we can point them to, but I think that...
Yeah, I think first we got to make sure we capture them in the release notes because that's kind of the source of truth, and then we can add another page that summarizes it as well.
Yeah.
It's also good for CSI driver vendor, so we can know exactly what is V1 and, you know, to be more focused on these aspects rather than other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Anything else?
We only took twice as much time. That's good.
All right, not bad. We'll see you on Friday then. Thank you very much.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.